All right. Hi, everyone. Everyone that's here, as I mentioned, we'll give everyone else 5 more minutes to join. I wouldn't want them to miss anything, but welcome to everyone who's here, and I'm really excited to be here with you guys. So yeah, let's just like vibe out a little bit. I have some kitchen swagger playing in the background. I do love cooking with music. And yeah, I can do this twice. Who cares? Welcome everyone to my live stream. I am Chef Alexis Butters, also known as Chef Christina Alexis. So just feel free to call me either. And I am a private chef and caterer. I run a small company in the Bay Area called the Pleasure Principle Supperclub and Dining Events. And today I am demoing one of my favorite dishes, one of my signature dishes. It's Juanito Cakes and Braised Jerk Chicken. And yeah, I'm just so happy you guys could be here with me today. Obviously, we're all kind of collectively going through a bit of a public crisis. I just feel lucky that myself and my friends and family and loved ones have the resources that they need. And even more than what they need while we're all, kind of doing our part to mitigate this public crisis and pandemic. That's all I'll say about that, because I like to keep the focus pretty light and positive. But yes, thank you for taking the time to be here with me today, and I'm so excited. So yeah, a little intro and background about me. I apprenticed with a classically trained chef in Chicago about 8 years ago. And then shortly after that, I completed a master's program abroad in Barcelona. And that's where I really kind of discovered my love of food and cooking for other people. Growing up, my grandmothers and my mother were pretty instrumental in keeping me and my sister in the kitchen. And I just remember when things were like tough or hard for my grandmother, or for anyone in our family really, the way that they were soothed and kind of held was through food. My grandmother would cook. If we lost someone in our family, or someone was going through hard times, or when things were stressed, my grandmother she would cook it out and feed us, and her food was so soothing and comforting. And so in that vein, I just kind of learned to communicate love with food. And it just kind of stuck with me, into adulthood. And though I did get an MBA in marketing, I was just like, I'd rather cook. And so here I am right now. And so now that we're, kind of all here, I think, I would like to add, if you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to just type them there in the text box. I'll answer your questions as I can and as I see them pop up. And yeah, just feel free to interact as much as you like. Can everyone hear me okay? If you can hear me okay, just type a 1 or something like that. Or I'm just kind of going to assume you guys all can. Nice. Cool. All right. We got some 1s on the board. All right, let's get started. So today it's Juanito Cakes. Juanito Cakes are my version of a classic Southern dish called Johnny Cakes. Johnny Cakes, of course, are kind of cornmeal-based pancakes. And in this case, I've dubbed them Juanito Cakes because I kind of like Caribbean them up a bit. In my Juanito Cakes, I add a little bit more sugar, and I also add a spicy element. Typically, I add jalapeno, but in this case, today, I'm adding Szechuan, mostly because I have them on deck, and I love them. They're really a beautiful spicy flavor. They're fruity and piquant, but not overwhelming. So yeah, today in our Juanito Cakes, I've prepared them gluten-free. And so I'll just kind of walk you over to my station over here I've set up. And I've sifted together 1 cup of coarse ground cornmeal, a 1/4 cup of brown rice flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then to that, I'm going to add 1 cup of almond coconut milk, just to keep it like pretty dairy free. There will be an egg in this case, but these could easily be made vegan if you make a vegan egg with chia seed and water. My mom is vegan, so I do try to adapt my recipes to be vegan, and so are so many of my clients. I am not vegan. I do love meat, and but I do think it's important to kind of be versatile. So yeah, let's get it started. So a really cool rule of thumb whenever you're like kind of baking or doing anything that kind of resembles baking is to mix your wet ingredients first. So I have 1/4 cup of oil, and I'm going to add that. Actually, I could reuse this measuring cup because why would you wash more dishes when you have to? So I'm going to do 3/4 cup and then just kind of add it as needed. I don't like a super wet batter. It doesn't make the cakes as fluffy as I like. So yeah, if we need to add more liquid, we can. If we need to subtract liquid, obviously we can't. So. Oh, this is a jam. My Jamaican guy, that's dope. Cool. All right, once that's pretty well incorporated, just add it to your dry ingredients. And use a wire whisk for this part because the batter is pretty thick. Yeah, and so I'm glad I didn't add too much milk to begin with because this is looking pretty close to the consistency I want. We're also going to add a can of corn. Corn is not fresh yet this time of year, and I do typically like to cook seasonally, but corn's not ready yet, obviously. But I do kind of want that burst of fresh corn in these cakes, especially since in this case we're using Scotch bonnet and not jalapeno. Anything to kind of help mellow out the spiciness of these cakes will help. So I'm going to add like 50 milliliters more of milk, which I guess is close to 1/4 cup. Yeah, and that should be perfect. What's not cool about social distancing is that we can't all go out to like our favorite restaurants, but what is cool is that I get to cook in house shoes, which you see them? So let's see. Someone asked if I'll be sending the recipe. I absolutely will. I'm happy to email everyone the recipe if you'd like. You can just add your email to the text box, and I'll make sure to hit you up right after this. And then maybe if you want, you can feel free to share your photos of you making this recipe. I'd love to see it, and I'd share it on my social media channels. All right, so that was a little bit more of the coconut almond milk. Now I'm adding the can of corn. And like I said, I really want you to taste like the sweet corn, especially in the summer when I make this recipe and you get really peak sweet corn. There's really nothing like it. It's like one of my favorite things. And I think that's kind of why I made this dish one of my signatures. It really does remind me of my grandmother, who was from Alabama. Still tasty. So I'm going to put a glove on while I cut these bonnets. Just because I am the kind of person that touches my face a lot, and I don't want to burn my boyfriend when I'm trying to give him a hug and just be nice later. So I have 2 out here. They're pretty big and kind of the bigger the pepper, the less spicy in theory. But I might go for 2. I might give a whiff to see how spicy it is. Oh, no, no, no. We're just going to do 1. That's a good thing. And I might even like de-seed half of it. If you were using jalapenos instead of Scotch bonnet, which I kind of recommend if you're not super into spice, you could de-rib and de-seed half. And this recipe calls for 2 jalapenos or 1 Scotch bonnet. And so in that case, you would de-rib and kind of de-seed half of the jalapeno. So 1 whole jalapeno would be de-ribbed and de-seeded. And then you would leave the seeds and ribs in the other jalapeno. And that'll give you a nice smile. And make sure to kind of pick bigger jalapenos, because again, the bigger, the less spicy. So I'm going to get rid of those because those are useless now. And just stir this in. And so I'm going to give that a second to let all of those flavors kind of marry. Yeah, again, and then it'll like kind of thicken up on you a little bit. And in the meantime, I have been preheating my griddle pan. I love this guy. I take it with me on my pop-ups and everything like that. It really makes like cooking fresh tortillas and these Juanito cakes really, really easy. It's also super easy to clean, which any chef, home or otherwise, knows to appreciate. And I am a waste not, want not chef. This morning I made my boyfriend and I breakfast. I made us bacon and egg sandwiches, and I saved the bacon grease. Obviously, that's detracting away from like the vegan status of this recipe. But again, this could easily be Smart Balance or Miyoko's vegan butter, or even like a cooking spray. But it will impart some delicious flavor on those Johnny cakes. I don't know anyone that doesn't like the taste of bacon, except for vegans. So. But I think even vegans like the taste of bacon. So yeah, this has been preheating. And I'm going to get these all down as fast as I can. So I'm using a 1/4 cup measure. If you want, you can use an ice cream scoop or, I don't know, a spoon. Just try to make sure they're uniform. And actually, I'm going to spread that a little bit more evenly so that we can get as many cakes down as possible. And I'm just going to do that with a napkin, paper towel. Ugh. So I'll put these down and then bring the computer over closer so that you guys can see it and cook. But yeah, we want that to be up higher a bit. There we go. All right, so I'm actually just going to let those do their thing. We want to get a nice crust on the bottom. And you can hear them sizzling, which is a great sign that they are in fact cooking. So we will move on to the next part of the recipe. Arguably the most important part, the jerk chicken. Actually, it seems like there's a little bit of a glare there, so we'll move you guys up here for now. All right, so for the jerk chicken, what I've done is pre-roasted a whole chicken. A really good and actually very smart hack to this would be to buy a store-bought chicken. And actually, when I'm pressed for time, in the event that I am catering, I do buy a store-bought chicken. I typically buy Mary's Organic from Berkeley Bowl. Oh, someone asked, excuse me, can you use frozen corn instead of canned? Absolutely. You would want to let it thaw because the water content in the corn, once you cook it, might waterlog the cakes. But yes, absolutely frozen corn when corn is not in season. So yeah, just kind of improvise. Like my recipes tend to be very rustic. And I try to refine them in plating, which I'll show you guys, right? If we don't run out of time because I talk so much. But yeah, just kind of go with your gut. Peak corn season is kind of like late June, early July. Depending on where you are in California, it tends to come a little bit earlier. But in the Midwest, it's certainly a little bit later in the summer. So frozen is fine. Dakota, it does look good, doesn't it? All right, so here is my previously roasted chicken. Isn't she beautiful? Can you even see her? I roasted her last night, and for the sake of time, I am not going to follow any like decent chef-wise knife cuts. I'm just kind of going to go at it with my hands and tear it off, because what I'm going to do is shred this chicken, and then we're going to braise it a bit with some bone broth that I made from other chicken bones and from the fat of rendering off this chicken. And we're going to simmer it with my jerk sauce, which we will certainly get into. And so a neat little trick too that I like to do, especially when I'm thinking about plating, is I take the skin of this off, because we're using white and dark meat, so we don't need the skin. It also, being previously roasted, is pretty not crispy, actually like pretty flabby right now. So what I'm going to do is put it in the toaster oven to kind of crisp it up. And then that will be our chicken chicharron later that we'll use to really impress people with our plating. So I'm only doing about half of the chicken right now, but the recipe calls for like a whole chicken. And this keeps really well because the chicken's previously roasted. You could almost use the shredded jerk chicken or the shredded chicken with the jerk sauce as a chicken salad. Well, my cakes are ready to turn. Let's give it a quick turn. Those are perfect. I promise I'm going to show you guys. All right. Let's let you guys take a look. So that's exactly what you kind of want to see. They're nice and crispy on top. They have a nice crust. And now my griddle is at the appropriate temperature. So they're cooking exactly as they should. Okay, I'll go longer than 30 minutes. I probably will anyway, but thanks for that. I'm just gonna get a sheet pan ready so I can take those guys off and reload, and then we'll keep going with our chicken. A really good rule of thumb for any chef, again, home cook or otherwise, is to just kind of have your station, your mise en place ready, so to speak. I've kind of given myself the affectionate moniker of chef in place. Actually, I wasn't. I was given that by Sayer, my boyfriend, who's very clever. But yeah, mise en place means everything in its place in French, and that's like kind of the backbone of chef work, again, home or otherwise. So yeah, just as much as you can set yourself up for success, that's how much easier cooking is going to be. Now that's the sound we want to do yet. So this is still pretty seasoned from before. Just going to reload. I don't know what this song is, but we're changing it. So much of part of my being in the kitchen is just like about maximizing my kind of therapeutic pleasure, and like cooking and music is like sublime for me. My mom and dad raised us in a very like musical household, and I just like associate like so much levity and like happiness with music playing in the house. All right, we got our second round of corn cakes on. So let's keep going with this chicken, because I can't wait to show you what this looks like when it's all done. Oh, we did talk about changing that song. Sorry. Yeah, the chicken salad with jerk sauce is a clutch move. I tend to overmake this, and my boyfriend, my sister, my boyfriend's roommate, like, will just eat off of this chicken for days, like with a fork out of the container, out of the fridge. And that's why I suggest either pre-roasting the chicken or buying pre-roasted, because it is like, it's a fridge safe product. You know, you don't really have to worry about recooking it all the way through. And it really does just like make it easier. It makes making something this delicious that much easier. So I'm gonna turn my toaster oven on so I can render out the fat on these, on the chicken skins. And just like add a little wow factor to the plating. So you just take a piece of aluminum foil and get the chicken skin out really well, like flat on there, well laid out. I'll show you what that looks like so you can see. My top 3 artists of all time, easy. Well, maybe not easy. So that's what the chicken should look like. And the more of the chicken you use, obviously, the more chicken skin you'll be able to render. But we're just doing this half for now. So top 3 artists of all time. Okay, let me see. I think Prince would have to be in there. And then I really, really love SZA. I think she's an amazing songwriter. I think her voice is unique and just like awesome. And I find myself very soothed by her voice. So she'd definitely be in there. And then I think I have to say Beyonce, mostly because of her performance and like work ethic. She's one of the best performers of all time. And like, she's just very thoughtful and intentional with her, you know, with what she produces and gives to us. Which is really, really cool. So yeah, I think Prince, SZA, and Beyonce, which SZA kind of surprises me. So, all right, I'm just looking for a bowl to make my chicken. Sorry. I could talk about music and food forever. So I'm getting my chicken in a bowl. And we're actually doing great for time. But we need to talk about this jerk sauce, guys. So this is my wet jerk. I started workshopping this in 2014 when I lived in Barcelona, and I could not get my hands on any good kind of Caribbean food. And there was this place in Chicago called Nathan's that made jerk chicken. And they did it with the dry rub on the grill. And then they also made a wet sauce out of the dry rub that they used. And I just like had such a craving for that when I lived in Barcelona. It was bizarre because I hadn't been to Nathan's at that point in 10 years. But it's really funny how food memories work like that. They can be so pronounced. But yes, I had a craving for this wet jerk sauce. And things in Spain are just like not spicy. It's not their jam. They do not like spicy food. I'm gonna take these guys off so they don't burn. Always listen to your nose, guys. We'll tell you when stuff's ready, and mine just did, and these are perfect. So I think that's all we're gonna do for now. I took everything that I could remember and could find in Barcelona, and I started workshopping this jerk sauce, and now I think I've gotten it to a point where I've perfected it. This jerk sauce is 26 and a half months old. I've been aging it. I got the idea from watching Chef's Table. At Pujol, he has a Pujol in Mexico City when they did the profile on Chef Olvera, I think is his last name. I could be wrong. I don't know why I'm blanking on it. But he showed a Malay mother sauce that he does. And I was just so inspired by that. I was like, oh my God, I could do that with my jerk sauce if I figured out how to age it, which I did. And it's actually pretty fridge stable on its own because it has a lot of acid and certainly a lot of capsaicin from the Scotch bonnets. But it's also a process where I take it out once a month and I cook it out, and then I add it to a new batch of jerk sauce. So what's in it? Your kind of classic standbys, scallions with the scallion ends. So I do 2 to make 1 quart. I do 2 bunches of scallions with their ends, a bunch and a half of cilantro, and then I just kind of eyeball the lime juice, but typically it ends up being about 8 limes, and then a cup of soy sauce, and then a 1/4 cup of allspice berries, a teaspoon of black pepper, and all of this will be in your recipe. Well, most of it anyway. This is my secret recipe, but a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. I'm sorry, a tablespoon of salt, and then something enzymatic and sweet to kind of balance out the heat. So I typically use pineapple juice because it will tenderize the chicken, which is especially important if you're applying this to a raw chicken product. In this case, it's just an added bonus. But yeah, so pineapple juice, and then because I'm crazy, I like to use like 6 to 10 Scotch bonnets. I like the heat, and like I said, Scotch bonnets just have such a rounded heat to them. They're not like, they don't obliterate your palate. And with everything else that's in this wet jerk, it just really mellows it out and marries well. You also want to add a bit of oil to it, like I'd say a 1/4 cup for this recipe for a quart. And then just a little bit of water to kind of loosen it up, and you blend it up, and you blend it until it's kind of got like this applesaucey kind of consistency. Can you guys see that? Yeah. So I always have a quart of this in my fridge. It just is something that I refuse to not mother and let go. So I'm going to add all of this to this amount. This was only a half of a quart. This is a half a quart, so it was a 1/4 quart. Yeah, I think that I like it to be well juiced and like well sauced. And so I'm just going to give it a good toss, and then we're going to get it braising. You'll get that jerk sauce, I swear. You guys could also, like, I could send you guys some jerk sauce if you guys are into it. Let me know. I'm pretty flexible. So I got that mixed up, and our chicken is definitely rendering. Actually, it's done. So check that out. And be careful with this because this will burn you. But yeah, those are done. I'll show you those later when we're going to plate up. All right, and so how we talked about my being a waste not, want not chef, what we're gonna braise this chicken in is bone broth. I took the bones of chicken that I'd already kind of broken down already, and then the fat that I rendered from this and saved it. There's no reason why not to save this and use it to make your food that much better. So yeah, we're gonna add some of this to a preheating pan. You can add some oil. There's, again, oil in the jerk sauce, and just like to lubricate your pan, but it's not totally necessary. So I'm just going to use a little bit. I don't think I'll use all of this for this recipe, but. All right. We're going to let that do its thing for just a second. We're going to move on to accoutrement, for your toppings. And let that go. All right. A little station reset. So we talked a lot about how much I like heat and like scaring people with the amount of heat I like. But don't worry, I am not without mercy. And so to kind of go with this recipe, I make this really cool, my interpretation rather, of a raita. A raita is a savory Indian condiment that's served with Indian food, most usually to scale or kind of cool off your mouth from how like spicy Indian food can be. Typically, Indian raita has like grated cucumbers and like maybe a little bit of carrot, anything kind of fresh and complementary to the cooling effect that's necessary when eating some Indian food. In my case, I like salty yogurt. I like savory salty yogurt. Yeah, my boyfriend kind of razzes me about it often. He's just like, once I found out I could get the like creamy and richness that you find in like sour cream from yogurt, I was sold. And it also just like cools your mouth out perfectly and is the perfect complement to like the sweet and spicy corn cakes and the braised and very juicy chicken. And then we're also going to throw some quick pickled onions in there. So I will show you a pre-made raita. And again, I will send you guys the recipe. But my raita is organic, whole fat Greek yogurt. And then I add quite, to taste, salt and pepper. And then also finely chopped cilantro and scallion. And I'll show you what that looks like. And then I'll show you this braised chicken that smells insane right now. So this I pre-made because I have been making to-go orders, but you can see it's like really creamy. It's got scallion, cilantro, black pepper, and salt. Can you guys see that? Yes. There you go. It's kind of sunny in this, or very sunny rather, in this kitchen, which I am not complaining about. Savory salty yogurt is the best, Roya. All right, let me take you over to the braised chicken. And I really wish, I can't believe they haven't invented like screens and TVs that allow you to smell what's happening in people's kitchens. Yeah, it's a little bit disappointing. I think we need to get, a letter writing campaign going on that. So yeah, the savory salty yogurt standing by. And another one of my kind of typical toppings are like side dishes, if you will. Like this is always on our table. Quick pickled red onions. A quick pickle is a half a cup of vinegar, a quarter cup of water, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of salt. I heat that up, throw it on top of one red onion. That's a recipe for 1 onion. I will send you guys, again, this recipe in detail, but if there's any like kind of recipe people should have under their belt, it should be like a good red sauce, a good pickle, and a good chicken recipe. But yeah, like you could survive off of those 3 things, I think, pretty well. So we're gonna plate it up here, guys, because we are in the home stretch. And my roommate is gonna be pretty excited to have this for his lunch. My roommate is my boyfriend. That's my little joke. So my plate up is like this. I take 3. I take 3 of them and just kind of stack them together. Try to make it look nice. And then I'm going to show you my plate up of the jerk chicken. Let me give you guys a better view here. Okay, just a quick stir. And again, this was cooked through chicken, guys. So, don't be too timid. Don't be scared. Give it a taste for sure. But I know this tastes good. This is like something I've made already, maybe 4 or 5 times this month. I'm also offering it on my Chef in Place interim menus, which if any of you guys are in the Bay Area, you should check it out. You can check it out on my Instagram, which is at pleasureprinciplediningevents.com, or you can just send me an email, Christina@pleasureprinciplediningevents.com, and we can chat about how I can bring this to you. So that was our jerk chicken. This is our savory salty yogurt, and I just kind of go around, make it look nice, make sure like every bite will be maybe a little bit different and interesting, kind of like create as dynamic a plate as you can. But yeah, it's also cool if you don't get the same bite every time. Another cool hack really quickly I wanted to tell you guys about, with these Johnny cakes, they don't necessarily have to be one application. Like they're great for breakfast, for brunch, lunch. And I made a honey butter, and they're perfectly good with just honey butter, like I said, like as a side dish or for breakfast or what have you. So these cakes have many applications, as does the chicken. So just some FYI for you guys. So I'll top this plate with the quick pickled red onions. I'm just gonna really go for it. And then these are our chicharrones we made. It's super crispy. I don't know if you can hear that. But yeah, and it just makes like a really cool plating like trick. You can get it to stand out. Kind of looks like shards of chicken skin, which I personally get really excited about. And that's it. This is Juanito Cakes. Thank you guys for rocking with me a little bit longer. But yeah, these are Juanito Cakes with braised jerk chicken and some savory yogurt raita, and also some pickled red onions and chicken chicharron. Please, please, please leave your emails. And I'd be happy to send you guys the recipe in detail. This was so much fun. I was obviously a tiny bit nervous, but this was really cool. And I really hope I get to cook with you guys again. And thank you so much from Chef Alexis Butters, aka Chef Christina Alexis from the Pleasure Principle with Love. Thank you guys so much. Take care. Aw, thanks.